Well, good afternoon. It's late December, and I really should be back in school. No, it's late December, and I'm running out of vacation time. So, shooting a video today, looking for some inspiration. Some guys have shown some stuff lately, specifically Max. I was running through one of your videos relative to your reverse position parting tool setup. That looks interesting to me because I absolutely despise parting off on this and pretty much any of my smaller lathes. So I wind up with issues. I try all the dark magic, very speed, plenty of fluid, all these other things that should be working for me. It just doesn't seem, because I think to your point, and a lot of others, Bruce Witham had the same point he made quite a bit, you just don't have the mass to fight that battle. So as the parting tool, for instance, this is coming in and it's forcing in this direction and the part is turning this way. This is basically being shoved down. Well, when it gets jammed up, especially with something like this with a carbide, something's got to give. And either the part gets chucked across the room in your face, or something snaps and the tool breaks, or you go in and you try something cute like using you can use the old, look, Dan's got lots of different ones. Yes, you can use the old standard high-speed steel one. Same kind of results, not quite as bad, but same kind of results. And the same is true when you try to even say, okay, I'll just go thinner, I'll make a smaller cut. Well, this is one of those from you know where. So from that standpoint, I'm looking at this and saying, okay, what's available to us? Well, this is the M250, the backside of the cross slide here, and I've chased them out today and cleaned out all the threads. These seem to be two blind hole M10s, and threads are in good shape. They go down, I would say probably 15 to 20 millimeters, maybe 22 millimeters from that, and so there's a good amount of bite on the thread. Over here is some additional holes. This one's not fully blind, but it's going to be basically the same kind of a thing. And over here, so but these are quite a distance away, so that's a lot to span to try to do it. So what I was looking at, watching your video, Max, it was relative to holding it true. The one thing I have a question relative to that is I think this will obviously be true to the chuck, getting the height just right. And because I know when as you adjust the tool and things like that, you may run into slight height differences because you want to be dead on center. So that was one thing I was trying to factor in, is the ability to adjust slightly. I know yours has a wide slot where the tool goes in. It's got a channel here, and then you've got it set and adjusted just right. So should you look at doing something like that and using shims to do the offset, or should we look at something much more complex relative to adjusting the height? So either way, what I was thinking about is looking at using my readily available materials, and what I seem to have the most of right now is aluminum. There's a nice little hunk of aluminum. It spans those holes. I would use come down and probably do a countersunk screw under that, and then go in. Again, we can put the tool wherever you'd like, but that's kind of what I was thinking. The other option I had was this one here. It's a little bit longer, so we could offset the bolts and have plenty of room up in the front for the tool to go through. Again, that's just a couple of things I was looking at. I don't need an answer from anybody. I'm just saying, if you have a thought, go ahead. If not, that's okay too. I'm just looking at doing something different because I'm just not satisfied. I would do a lot more parting off if I had it. So ultimately, the parting tool, we would want it upside down, if I understand correctly, and then at the center height. So that's the gymnastics we need to work through with the tool to get it there. Now, I do like these ones with the inserts, even though they break all the time. in the current configuration. So I would like to take a look at either doing that using an existing carbide tip, because they seem to be plentiful, and or switching over to something a little more old school, as I showed before. The well, this is another carbide one, but that is really quite a bite in that one. So that's that's a lot for this little lathe to turn. So maybe a high-speed steel variant, upside down. And again, I've got them in the quick change post, but I mean, it's just something like that to have it at the right height to introduce it to the work as it comes in from the backside. So just some thoughts about that one. I haven't started designing or sketching or anything. I was going to use Fusion 360 to sketch it, at least. Maybe I'll show that in another episode. Another question in the world: why on earth are those batteries for these absolutely constantly dead? I have no idea. I have 5 or 6 of these things running around. Again, they're not great, but these are my knockarounds. I keep the good stuff locked up, but these batteries are constantly dead. I don't know. It's mystery of life. Beyond that, we kind of leveled the lathe out today, changed the configuration a little bit, did some work, and just sitting there staring at that and saying, why don't I ask a question via video, so no one really has to be obligated to answer, and at the same time maybe we have some thoughts as a collective, because lots of smart folks out there, lots of good ideas. But anyway, that's just one of my ideas for that one. Again, to go with something like this with a little bit more mass, or go with something a little longer, if the need arises. We can go a little north of that. So anyway, just as a joke, but anyway, mass is a good thing. I appreciate that, but minimal would be great too. But just some thoughts on that one. If anybody has any, just share them in the comments below. But I really like the lathe, this Harrison M250. It's very good, very solid, and the best part is I don't have a lot in it. I bought it before the economy improved in the US, and things went up pretty close to tenfold in machine tools. I haven't been able to buy anything on eBay in probably a year, other than just a minimal little something here or there. For a while I was able to collect machine tools pretty aggressively at a pretty good price, but that has been long since not an option. Even in the local, we have a Craigslist here. I think you guys have your variant in Australia and in England as well. Yeah, the prices are still just not right. Not even close for used stuff that needs to be fixed anyway. So the good news is every piece of equipment that I picked up has went up in value. It'll go down in value again, but as of right now, I can feel fat and happy that what I have invested in my machine tools are very minimal compared to what they're actually valued at today. So anyway, that's all for now. I'm looking at some of the other 3D printing. I know I just showed a few of those the other day relative to printing a gear. We've done some bigger ones as well. There's kind of that one is in PTEG. It's fine. It works good. The surface, again, adding that dryer, I think, helped the quality of the print, because the material is hygroscopic to varying degrees depending on which one you're using. And hygroscopic, what it gets. Okay, one more time. The moisture buildup in the filament itself, when you heat the filament to basically displace it, because basically it heats it up, pushes it through a nozzle, and displaces it with the movement of the of either the bed or the actual print head itself. So from that standpoint, once it gets hot like that, you can imagine what happens with moisture buildup inside the filament. It starts to release as steam. So you wind up with little micro bursts of steam pockets build up, depending on where the moisture is built up, and basically just can really cobble up your print. So keeping it dry is important. I may show a small segment on that one on the dryer that I've got. There's all kinds of voodoo out there to dry them. You can put them in the oven. Yeah, I don't think my wife's going to be up for that. You can also, food dehydrators work, that's fine. The one I've got actually allows me to dry and use at the same time, so it's nothing exotic, but it's actually pretty useful for at least the first test that I had. And beyond that, I think we'll try some more Fusion 360, drawing a couple of things. I am not a master of it. I learned most of what I learned, as I mentioned in the previous one. I learned a lot from Randy Richards and his shop, going through some of his old mini steam engine projects. He went at a very good cadence. I recommend highly if you're wanting to learn. Randy's a great instructor, and he anticipates your questions, which is good, because it's tough to ask a question via video, especially when it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. But he did a great job anticipating a lot of the things I wanted to know. And there are tons of other folks out there. I just like watching Randy because he kind of understands my kind of thinking, so answers the questions accordingly. So from that one, I'll maybe add on a little more to this one, but other than that, that's kind of one of my projects I want to get started on, because I really want to use the lathe. I just hate parting off because it's a crapshoot. No matter how careful you go, you play with speeds and all the kinds of other things. It depends on the material. It can get really wild for a while. I've parted off things as big as 4 inches in diameter, and boy, that you pack a lunch and worried about that the entire time you were doing it. So, well, that's it. I'll bring you back a little later. If not, this will be the sign off for this episode. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Okay, just while I'm here, let me change the marker. Roughly, I'm going to go in rough numbers here. Through the on centers here, it's going to be right at 50 millimeters. Okay, and yeah, it's going to be right roughly 50 millimeters, plus or minus a little bit. So it's a pretty good span there across those holes. So I'm sorry, it's upside down for you. Ugh. Yeah, it's upside down. All right, everybody, just invert your head and watch this. So I'll have to take a look at doing that, and then I was going to come back and see if I can get this height from this surface here to the center of this live center in the back. So I'll bring you right back. Okay, I'm just gonna rough it here, okay? Purist in the audience, just kind of hang loose there. Uh, 3.5 inches, or let's talk about 89 millimeters. Let's try it again, see if we can accidentally repeat. And again, .4. So let's just go with that. And again, I'll qualify everything all over again. Center. Okay, so 50 millimeters in between these two, and about 89.4 is where the tool would need to be on center right here. So again, the channel obviously would be taller than that where the tool would reside, but that's about where I would need to be. So at least it gets me something I can sketch on, and I'll get out the good stuff and measure it for sure. I've got a couple other items that will be a little bit more precise, but I guess that's about it. So got plenty of material, I got the tools to do it with. I just need to get a plan together and then get started. Because what, you thought I had been paying attention to all these hundreds of videos I've watched? Yeah, I've been collecting stuff. So in this case, I'm using this to check that height. Going across that, going right to the tip. This will be a little bit more accurate. All right. Let's call that. 88.3. That repeated twice. .2. 88.24. Neighbors got their dog out, so you're getting a little bit of that. So let's see if we can recreate from scratch. Okay. Okay. .3. 88.3. All right, before I forget it, 88.3 to this point. Boom. Okay. And you thought I had been paying attention. Yeah, these are magnificent for that stuff, as are the adjustable, crap, I'm in my 50s. The, done, just showing you a kind of a snapshot here of what I was drawing in Fusion 360. I'm free-handing it here, so apologies. But basically model it out, put the grooves, screws in. These are threaded here. I would countersink those, by the way, just so you know. But these are fully threaded, full length here. And there you go. So, not an expert, not good enough to give anybody any advice, but just sharing with you what I got. All right, thanks. And here's the same part in Prusa slicer. Already been sliced, but you get the general idea. 13 hours and 47 minutes. Only a 10% infill, so it was the bare minimum I could get it to hold its shape, but at the same time it allowed me to check everything before I invested too much time making something that wouldn't work. So kind of like a really nice physical template. So very helpful for me. Well, good morning. I spent a little time thinking about this issue again last night. Well, I might have taken some action. So when last we talked, we pulled up some dimensions and we kind of took a look at a few things. Let me show you what I roughed out last night. Why to get excited here? This is just prototype. Oh my, what's that? Well, that's the prototype. A little big, a little bulky, obviously not super clean. However, what I wanted to show was we've got the setup on the top here to accept this tool in this one, and we're putting it in upside down. And there'll be set screws here. These two screws should line up somewhere thereabouts with the mounting holes right here. Yeah, I will have some overhang. I've already thought about that when I was drawing it up. It's going to be like that, but what I want to do is infill down below here to make that square up. So it's going to add another element of holding this. So this will go down and clamp, but at the same time this will have a ridge built in where it will actually pilot and line that up every time, because I won't want to leave it on forever. It's going to get in the way of something eventually, so I want to be able to take it off and restore it. So I'm just going to, for the weight, I'm just going to balance it right like that. Very, very light plastic that I printed last night, so it's to dimension, but it obviously is giving me ideas on things I need to tweak. However, what I wanted to do was just to make sure, well, obviously I can get up, up close. Shouldn't be anywhere obtrusive to anything. Okay, and the other thing is the angle. I went ahead and went straight because the angle of the entry is already factored into the tool. So we'll have that one in. Basically the tool has a back relief. Okay, so I'm just going to lock it like that, and then let's find out what's going on. Here, here. Hang on, I'm going to bring them a little closer. Hopefully you can see that. To my human eye, that looks pretty darn on. So, from the experiment, which it says just an experiment, we've got the height set. We've got the location. I got to double check the holes there to make sure that they're square, but the height is right. So what was it? 88.3 millimeters seemed to line up with this tool, and the tool, once it was in position, would be fairly well supported. That's why I left a lot of mass on the top to give it plenty of rigidity in that area. So I guess that's really it, because I was very, very surprised that actually anything that I measured came out fairly close. And with the printing, it only has 3 walls, vertical and horizontal, and then only like a 5 or 10% infill. So it's not strong. So this is not the part. This is just the concept. So we have an idea of what to do. But that shows me that my initial forays with these original blocks probably is a little light. Even with that, I'm a little narrow. Okay, let me pull you back up. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's close. I could probably get by with it, but by the time you come in and the bolt holes come in, what was that? 9 millimeters? Yeah, roughly. They come in right about the edge of the bolt. Right about there. Okay, there's the bolt hole. Front to back, if I were using this on the square. And then in addition to that, the channel at the top, just going to pencil it in here, right like that. It's like that. So if you'll notice right here, that's gonna run right into it if I was coming all the way down through, which I kind of like that idea, because if I bore it tightly for the bolt and I use a countersunk cap screw, Allen headed cap screw, it's going to basically be very rigid, because it's going to be pulling down and it's providing side to side all at the same time. So the other option is to put this on the back side, right like that. Well, that would clear the bolts, and that might be a good option. The issue I have there is, will it give me the clearance to still do what I want? And I think what I'm going to run into is it's getting really close to the carriage and the chuck. So if I were just kind of using this as a rough sketch, if I were right about there, I'm going to be into the chuck, maybe. If not, it's going to get really close, and I'm not real sure. So I do like having it out here on the edge, which gives me the clearance, so the carriage really isn't interfering with anything, and I can make a cut all the way in, right up to the chuck itself, without having anything to do with the carriage coming anywhere near close. Here, let me give you a brush. There we go. So I'll be able to cut right up to the chuck itself, part off, and there's really nothing going on with the chuck or the cross slide there. So we would be clear of all of that mess. Okay, so I kind of like that idea. Again, when you bring it on the other side, yes, it's better supported, but at the same time, I kind of wonder. Now, you're saying, well, Dan, you just told us you're going to be offset a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to be offset about that much. Let me get this out a little bit so you can see. Get out of the light, Dan. Okay, so I'll be offset, but this is where I was wanting to put a ledge down here on the tool itself. That way it would pilot and give it just a smidge of stability. If you notice, I really don't have anything here causing me any grief. And if I really, really wanted to get fancy, I can actually bolt it to the front, but I don't think that's necessary. But I would bolt it to the here, and to the front, but I think that's way overkill. But takeaway from this one is, before I start drawing any further, I did this in Fusion 360. If anybody's interested, you know, I'll flash it on the screen so you can see. But it's very easy to basically set these up to you know, bore the holes, and you can kind of see the imagery where it is. I'll post this up and you guys can give me some thoughts, but I think ultimately the height's right. It should be pretty square against that, which would allow me to be able to just set it and forget it. There is probably a little variability here, but when I set those forcing screws, I only left just a little bit of clearance there, and that was, so I may have to get, where would I go, 16? So I'd be able to get a 1/2 inch tool in there as well. This one currently measures 16.5, I believe. I'll measure this one real quick. That's 16, and then I left it 1775. So actually, probably by the angle, it's probably closer to 18. So that will give me a little bit of flexibility. Why did I pick this one? Well, the inserts are cheap. You can get, they're readily available. And two, it doesn't do a bad job. These are very brittle on the tip, and we'll see. If necessary, I can adjust and make the tool a little differently. But at this point in time, I think this is the one I'm going to go with. The other ones were just a little big to fit in. Let's see here. So that might not be too far off. I didn't check it because I was so enamored with my grandeur. One second here, I'll get these screws out. You can hear my dogs out there. Well, that one's stuck, so I'll not use that for this discussion. And yeah, we won't use that one either, so. Alright, hold on one second. Let me get this out here. Okay. The miracle of a brass mallet and two of the lightest taps at the right angle. Miracle of miracles. I'd still be able to use this one. And this is the nice one from the Ishkar. Alright. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's going to be squared up once it's in there in the location. So that's actually pretty cool. We'll be able to use one or either. Unfortunately, the Ishkar inserts are very tough and very wide. I mean, that's a lot of beef to be taken off in one cut for this machine. So there's my prototype. We'll double check the holes, make sure that they're okay, and then because I have block big enough to handle this too, and show the entire entourage of materials. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can easily do that. If need be, we can even make that, cut the channel and leave the rest of it alone. That's quite a bit of mass. But, hey, that would be quite a bit, but you know what? Ultimately, it would certainly be, it'd be a force for good without having to do a ton of machining on it. And up here, don't fall down, as the last time I went and I bought scrap, aluminum was $1 a pound, so that 10-15 pounds of raw material there in aluminum, I think we would still be just fine. And I got plenty of height. I could actually mill in that shoulder that I looked at, square that up, and then I think that thing would be, it would be very cool. Again, that's a lot of real estate, but once you've got your center going through, it would impact the size of the shaft I could turn. Let's some more thoughts about that. This is how my brain works, folks. So from that one, you could turn quite a bit. You part it off, then you can bring it in. Yeah, that's going to be quite a big hunk of metal. I think I'll be doing that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's my thoughts from today. Sometimes my wife will tell you I'm far better at fixing than I am in designing and building. And I really hate drywall work. But conceptually, there it is in plastic. Again, I'll celebrate the fact that it's the right height. And we'll continue on from there. But yeah, like I said, any additional thoughts anybody has, those are obviously welcome. There's not a lot of real estate to, cut a curvature into this or anything. So, and again, I kind of like it the other way versus this way. I would sit right about like that. But yeah, this would be getting into the chuck before that bit would really be doing much. So, gonna kind of probably stay on this side and go from there. Alright, that's your update, and then I'll bring you up to speed as I get going. This is just something I sat there and sketched out last night and put on the printer. And good thing about 3D printers is they don't need you. Once you get past the first layer and it's got plenty of filament, it really doesn't need your attention. Alright, thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing if you like this content. Hit subscribe. If not, I appreciate everybody out there taking a look. Give me your thoughts, and then let's do this project together, because many hands make light work, I believe it said. So we'll go from there. Thanks again, everybody.